Digitalization.
All right, good afternoon.
Yeah, go ahead, clap it up. There we go.
Yes. All right, welcome to the Business of Sports session of the day. I hope you guys are enjoying it, and we're definitely going to have fun on this panel. So my name is Jené, Elzie. I'm going to be the moderator for today, and I will have the gentleman to my left introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about, I'm sure many people in here are familiar with you, and then we'll get into your backgrounds specifically in the panel. But yeah, there you go.
Jason McCourty. I played 13 years in the NFL, spanning for 4 different teams. Since retiring, I've gotten into the TV side of it, was working for NFL Network, and then this year, do 2 days a week on ESPN and then calling games for CBS. I'm also an identical twin, and I'm a lot better than my brother, if you want.
Usually I get better introductions than that, but Devin McCourty, very similar to him, 13-year NFL veteran. Different than him, I actually won 3 Super Bowls in the NFL. But again, similar to him, working broadcasting for NBC Sports, Football Night in America.
My name is Montgomery. Played in the NFL for 9 years, Stanford graduate. Recently retired as of 2023, and making my way through the wealth management world. And I just got my first job with the SaaS company called Bulk Source.
Last night, right?
Last night, yeah.
There we go.
Yes.
You were like, who's the guy on the end? Chip Paucek, a serial entrepreneur. My new company is called Pro Athlete Community, Education and Mentoring for Pro Athletes. These 3 guys are incredible examples of pro athletes that are doing great things off the field. But it's a really challenging story, transitioning from pro sports all over the world into the non-pro sports world. So we're like a new locker room for their future. Education, mentoring, great people, putting great people around them to help them gain new skills, get exposure to new things, and the grit, rigor, and intelligence it takes to do what they do on the field is directly transferable. Somebody just has to help them figure that out, and so that's our job. Prior to this, I ran a company called 2U, became one of the largest online education companies in the world. I was CEO of Hooked on Phonics, but we're here to talk to these guys.
And I guess I might be playing a little peacemaker, too, between the sibling rivalry here. So hopefully I don't have to do that. Let's talk about just being an athlete. And, the notion of what an athlete is has changed significantly over the last decades. At one point, all you had to do was really focus on your sport. And that was it. Put the blinders on, figure out what you want to do on the field. And now, what's so exciting about athletes these days is athletes are entrepreneurs, they're entertainers, they're media personalities, they're investors. And so I'm curious, who started you on that journey, and kind of who have been the influences along the way?
I'll start off. I would say for me growing up, you start to see other athletes getting into different arenas and doing different things. But when you talk about the evolution of the athlete, I was at a Tennessee Titans alumni event 2 years ago, and there was Houston Oilers that were back in town, guys that played in the 70s. And they're telling old stories when they were in training camp, how in the evening they go out to the local bar and get tore up. But they were like, we were fine because there were no camera phones back then. For today's athlete, it's a totally different spectrum because now you have camera phones. Kids now in the NFL, and I say kids, but they're growing up where they're on Twitter and Instagram and all of these things at a young age, and they're exposed to so much more. So they're starting podcasts and they're doing different things. My last year in Miami, when I joined the PAC event, I'm now in my 13th year. We had a rookie there who already was talking about investing in real estate and doing different things and venture capital. Those were things my rookie year, you'd get in trouble by your coach if he thought you were interested in something outside of football and you made a mistake on the field. So I think nowadays for guys coming in, you're looking at the athletes that came before you and you're seeing them do so many different things and say, hey, when I get there, I kind of want to dab my finger in some of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would throw in the fear of your sport ending. I think has created more guys getting involved in things right away. All the statistics are what they are, whether guys end up with substance abuse or divorce or broke. you hear those things over and over again. And when you're younger, you're like, yeah, that'll happen, but I just got to stay focused. I remember my second year in the NFL, I got an opportunity to shoot a commercial with him. And I was like, how do I hide this from everybody and not let anyone know I'm going to do this? Whereas once you get older and now some of the guys you played with, you see their struggles, it forces you to say, hey, that guy was great. He was a good person in the locker room, did everything the right way, and he's still struggling. I got to find ways to do things now, and I know that's the approach I took.
Yeah, for me, I had an experience when I was younger in the league where I actually wanted to go back to Stanford and get my degree. And I had a coach, pretty much tell me that, if you were my son, I would tell you yes, but as your employer, no, you can't. And that was really important for me to go back and get my degree. I ended up doing it online during the COVID years, during the season. But meeting people like Chip and another connection of mine, Rashawn Williams, venture capitalist, new limited owner in the Falcons, they've really pushed me to understand my worth and my value off the field as a businessman. And I'm very grateful to Chip and everything he's done.
Absolutely. And so, Chip, you see this story all the time, helping athletes transition. Talk about sort of what was the impetus for PAC for you and how you think about it.
It's an honor for me to do it. Mad respect for what they've done on the field, but it's such an unusual life that I think the general fan just doesn't understand. Like, the intensity of being the 1% of the 1% of the 1%, to be that elite, and then to have somebody tell you at 28 you're retired. Like, I started 2U when I was 37 with 2 kids. Like, what? Retired at 28, retired at 31. Like, there's not only so much life left, but the skills that they've learned. We were just talking when we were coming on stage that at PAC, we have a team of people that are former players that help us talk to players to join. And that team, that is our sales team. I've never had a team that requires feedback the way that team does. Like, what they learned on the field was extremely intense feedback, both given and received in the moment. And that's really hard in corporate America. Like, 2U had 4,000 employees, like middle management, training people to get people to be able to give feedback and training people to be able to receive feedback. If you can do it well, everybody gets better. These guys, it's immediate and intense and remarkable. And you can't say, hey, you did a great job, because they want to know what they didn't do well.
Yep.
And so I just think that all of these skills are so wildly transferable. We have a phrase we use at PAC called exposure breeds expansion. It's from my co-founder, Caleb Thornhill. And I have to tell you, it's perfect, because it's true. Like, all of the intensity of what they've done is directly applicable. The question is, like, you getting exposure to what happened yesterday. I mean, when we had drinks last night, I was super psyched, because you just got a job. It's a great job, and that's going to drive your future in a meaningful way. But that's because you took the time to invest in yourself, cultivate meaningful relationships, and that's going to elevate your life and those around you. So, but let's keep talking to these guys, because.
And so I want to pick up on something you talked about with social media and just being so exposed and so accessible, and everyone feels like they have a part of your journey and your story. And one of the things Ty and I were talking about was this notion of mentorship. And you've talked about how mentors play a role in your journey, but then also thinking about the responsibility that you feel as mentors. And how do you look at that? How do you think about what is your responsibility now with others that are coming up?
Ty, you want to start this one?
I guess, yeah. Sure. Thank you, Mr. Super Bowl champion. I feel a responsibility to show the younger generations how important sports are, both on and off the field. Chip, was touching on it. Everything you learn on the field is transferable to off the field. There's a work ethic, a myopic focus, a competitive nature, the ability to work within a team, to give and receive feedback and take criticism, and the list just goes on. And then to just make sure that they understand that sports goes beyond the amount of money you can make on the field. There's a such thing as financial or monetary capital, but also social capital, and your ability to brand yourself as a person and as a business, and to really just take advantage of off the field and wring out that sport for everything that it can give you beyond the glory or the stats or the accolades that you get on game days.
Yeah, I think the NFL, it's a fraternity of brotherhood. You know, I think when people watch, you have these rivalries. Obviously, I played in New England for 13 years, so it was the Patriots and the Jets. They all hate each other, right? But the truth is, when you get off, if I see someone and we're walking down the street, it's no different if you see somebody down the street and you went to the same college. You want to help them out. It's the same thing in the NFL. You want to mentor young guys. You want to help them figure out some things as they go forward, because when I got to the NFL, my locker was next to a 14-year veteran who played running back, Kevin Falk. He taught me about routine and what you needed to do. He didn't owe me that. He didn't have to, but it's the thought of paying it forward and doing those things. And I think you see that, I think, in all industries. And everyone doesn't do it. You know, some people might say, hey, this guy's coming to take my job. Yeah. I'm not going to help him. But I do think overall, you know, no matter where you go in this world, you're going to see things that continue to operate at a high level. It's because the people at the top mentor the people below them, and it just keeps working. It's a wheel. It just keeps going round and round.
And I think the cool thing about it is, playing in the league, you had guys that were mentors that had a direct approach on you. And now that I'm retired, I know I looked at guys like a Michael Strahan or Nate Burleson, guys that went from the NFL into the media world, and where I maybe don't have a personal relationship with them, maybe without them even knowing, they've become mentors to me because I'm following their path and I'm seeing the things they did, studying some of the things they do when they're on television to try to mimic it to get to where they got. So I look at myself now, I'll be around teams and guys will come up to me and they're like, man, I saw you on TV. Like, I think I want to get into that. What was your journey like to get there? And before you know it, you're mentoring somebody just by sitting down and telling them your journey and your story to where you got. So I think there's a direct relationship you have with people that you help bring them up and guide them. And then there's also people that you don't even know are looking at you that are watching and saying, damn, if he's doing it, I think I can do it too.
Absolutely. Very well said. So I want to talk about another topic that at one point was, you know, for athletes, but particularly for football players, was just not even thought of, you know, is a dirty word, which is mental health. And, you know, we had Simone Biles, who is literally the voice of mental health in sports and in life, here earlier today. And when we were talking, you know, just thinking about, at one point, being an athlete was just about your physical strength, right? You maybe had the mind game, you had people that had very strong mindset, but now it's keeping up physically, keeping up mentally, keeping up strategically. So can you talk about how that has impacted you and how you carry that forward into your present life?
Well, I'll say for me, a lot of the questions you get now is like, do you miss it? Do you miss being out there on the field? And I tell people all the time, absolutely not. And when you mention the anxiety and the stress and the mental health, you walk into a building, and much like I would tell young kids, it's like school, where you walk in for the day and it's meeting after meeting, being in the classroom, learning about what you're doing as a team and what your opponent is doing. And then when you walk out to the football field, from every second from that point, everything you do is recorded. And that's every day in practice. That's whether you're doing a walkthrough drill, whether you're doing an actual practice, they're recording and watching every single thing you did, and they're critiquing it. And then you get to the game, and not only are they recording it, and your coaches are going to give you feedback, you go on social media at the end of the game, and everybody watching, those coaches are giving feedback too. And much like Chip said, none of it is positive. No one's going on to tell you that. So walking away from the game, it removed that level of anxiety that you had to deal with every single day. And did I love being there, the camaraderie with the guys, getting to know people on the job, from janitors to everybody within a building? Those relationships can't be replaced. And that's why a lot of us struggle, to be honest with you, because with that anxiety also comes a sense of a locker room and a togetherness that allows you to vent, or whatever you're going through away from the football field, you can come in and talk to somebody. And the moment we walk out the door, you don't have those same resources. I would say to people all the time, somebody works at a job for 40 years and you retire. If you're feeling lonely on a Monday, you call somebody and you go back in to check in on some of your old coworkers. For us, you retire, and next thing you know, it's a new coach, a new general manager. You walk into the building and they don't know who you are, and they're not welcoming you in. So the mental health aspect of it is such a challenge, and it's so different for each guy, of how you deal with failure and how you deal with success. Those are two things that are going to happen to you no matter what, and how you respond kind of dictates what type of career you have.
Yeah, and I think the lessons you learn from playing, especially from a mental health aspect, you need to keep those when you leave, because I know for me mentally I did something for 13 years and then March 2022, I decided I was done. Now I had the mental stress of being home every day and having a wife and having 3 kids I'm sure everyone,
I'm going to tell her that.
went through it in COVID, right? When we all were now at home staring at somebody in the face every single day. And I remember I leaned on that. I started to go work out. I started to get my own time. I had a lot of conversations with my wife of us figuring out each other's schedule, because she's looking at me for 13 years. This is my domain, my house. And I'm like, well, I was a captain for 12 years. I know how to run things. Take my advice and let's operate the best way and be efficient. So I think the lessons we learn and what we thought was really hard in football, it's a reminder that everyone deals with life. We don't walk off the field into like this paradise where everything's easy at home or whatever you do next. That same mentality you had to get over things, talk about it, talk to team clinicians, whatever it is that you did, you have to now find what is going to be your new solution, your new methods off the field and in retirement.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't married during my time in the league, but I can say it can be really easy to forget about yourself, because there's a mentality of nobody cares, show up to work. Doesn't matter what your body feels like, doesn't matter what happened at home, doesn't matter how you feel. There is no off day. You can never call in sick. I mean, what's the fine? Like, a 5-figure fine, 30-something thousand. If you miss a day, if you miss a meeting, it's thousands of dollars of fines. So you get to a point to where it can be really easy to just forget to take care of yourself beyond taking care of yourself enough to do your job. And that can really mess with you mentally. And so it's very important to, talk to a therapist, find a community of people that can uplift you, but also hold you accountable. And I think all of that helps you, along in your mental health journey, because, isolation is one of the worst things you can do to yourself when you're struggling.
Yeah. The one thing I would add as the non-player here, obviously, I was a public CEO for a long time, and David Steinberg, who's the founder of Zeta Global, is a dear friend. And when I was going through my transition of moving from a public CEO to sort of normal life, I didn't have the celebrity these guys had. I didn't have 100,000 people screaming my name coming out of the tunnel, but I had a very public life. And David was like an example of a mentor who helped me get through that really significant transition. He said to me at one point, you're gonna be, because he had gone through something similar. He's like, you're gonna be standing in line at Starbucks and you're gonna be super psyched. You're just another guy standing in line at Starbucks until you get to the counter, and then you're gonna be freaking out that you're another guy standing in line at Starbucks. My point is, it's such a big transition, and it pales in comparison to what these guys have had to deal with. So the combination of all the traits, one of the things that I didn't understand when I started the company is like, it's just such a unique work environment. There's a corporate layoff every year. There's always somebody coming in to take your job. There's a tryout every Tuesday for a whole bunch of people that are there specifically to take your job. And then when you're done, the phone isn't ringing as much. It gets, some of these guys these guys obviously have done phenomenally, and it's a blessing, but like some people, they go to a bad place. I mean, the fact that at multiple PACs, we've had to have a moment of silence for somebody that literally killed themselves. The world doesn't really understand this. It's not just the story of like ESPN 30 for 30, somebody went broke. Sure, that is part of it. It's financial education's real, but this transition is no joke. And so it's really all about just transferring that skill set. And so personal coaching is a big part of it.
Absolutely. And how do you set that expectation, right? Because you got there, and I don't know how much of a shock it was that, this is the reality. I mean, you can tell people only so much, but it's a shared experience, I would imagine, that you can then, again, going back to mentorship, helping people be prepared for that shock.
Yeah, for sure. And when I first came in the league, guys used to always say, hey, the league is going to humble you at some point. Yeah. And it's kind of preparing you for the reality of, at some point, everyone's going to be told this part of your journey is over and you have to move on to something else. And as we talk about today's athlete, these guys are more prepared than ever to be able to transition into something else, because while they're playing, they're currently doing that, and they're preparing themselves for life after football. So
Some of them choose to walk away because of the other things.
we've seen guys retire while they're in the prime of their game, because the reality is there are other things in life that are better than sports. Guys have other interests. What Ty has gotten into outside of football, it's just like, I could have already done this. I've gotten what I've gotten out of football, and it's time to move on. So it is a big part of it. And I think as guys, as veterans, when you're playing, you see so many stories. And that was part of, for me, by the time I got older in the league, half the time I was just sitting in the locker room and telling stories, whether something happened to me or teammates that I know, and that's a tool for guys to learn from.
Yeah, and I think back to what Chip said, those guys that want the feedback, when I talk to guys, I'm just honest, and I'm just honest with them. I tell guys, if you're not doing something in the off season that promotes or moves you closer to what you think you might want to do, even if you end up not doing it, but each year you prepare and you say, hey, I think I might be interested in venture capital stuff. Ask somebody, go. Justin Tuck is a prime example. Played for the New York Giants. He used to go every Tuesday on the off day. He would go upstairs to the front office and he would say, hey, give me a list of all the people who have season tickets and they own suites. Let me know what their email is and what they do for a living. He started cold emailing them, asking them for lunch. Did that for a few years. Figured out he had no contacts on the West Coast. Free agency, goes to the Raiders to build West Coast contacts while still doing what he loved. Curtis Martin was the same way. I got a chance. He was a childhood hero for me. I got a chance to sit down with him last year, and he was like, football was, I was really good. Never was that into it. He said, so early in my career, he said in pregame, other owners would come and talk to him like, hey, you're a great player. I'll start asking him about business things. And now he's in private equity, and that's what he does. But that was a guy that knew that and took advantage while he was still playing.
That's fantastic. And Ty, I want to hear more about that piece for you, because you had a couple of things going on while you were also playing. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The last 2 years of my career, I really got interested in wealth building, wealth management, late-stage venture capital investments, private equity. I mean, I was amazed the first time I, got to see a company that got acquired, and then, learned about leveraged buyouts. And I'm like, you mean to tell me instead of buying a new car, I can buy a company? Like, that's amazing. Like, that's what I want for my birthday. Like, somebody buy me a vision. And then, also the real estate. And I began to find a passion for building up of others. And I started my own company, and my goal is to grow it to a family office called Kingdom Building Partners. I really enjoy building up other people. I don't care if it's your business. I don't care if it's a dream, if it's a passion. I love being a value add to someone else. And a mentor once told me that it's better to give than it is to receive. Never expect anything in return. And so that is what I enjoy doing. In my last year in the league, I remember being at practice, I was taking a knee, and I had a phenomenal conversation with the guy at lunch before practice. And I'm taking a knee at practice, and I say, that's what I really enjoy doing. But unfortunately, there's not a team in the league that's going to pay me to do that. And that's when I knew that it was time to walk away from the game, and it was time to start doing what I love and finding a way to, serve others.
How did you guys know it was time to walk away?
Oh, I couldn't cover anybody anymore.
That'll do it.
You talk about being a mentor. I feel like I stole my 13th year just to be a mentor over a guy that they drafted. But for me, I knew I was in New England for 3 years after doing 8 years in Tennessee, a year in Cleveland. And going into my 13th year, I signed with the Miami Dolphins. And I knew going in that was probably going to be my last year. That's why I met Chip, and he mentioned Caleb Thornhill and different guys. So I started really was always doing things to think about what was next, but that year was just like, all right, next is like right now. So I really need to figure that out. And then I tore up the Liz Frank ligaments in my foot. So that was, I was like, there's no way I'm rehabbing hard enough to come back from that point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was still a good player when I retired. No, not like him. I think for me, I think it's like a lot of people, you at one point in life, you kind of sit and you say, what I'm putting into this, am I getting that in return? And after my 13th year, I think we were 8-9. We missed the playoffs, and I had 3 kids, but 2 of my kids were going to start first grade and kindergarten. So it was time to start, building their community and get an opportunity to be around the same people if I could. And New England, the outlook wasn't looking good, so I kind of had wrestled with the thought of possibly going to play somewhere else. And the next 2 or 3 months, we stayed in New England so my kids could finish the school year. And I just was going places, and people were like, man, you start to feel old when I had young people to me, we're at a bar, and they're like, man, I've been watching you since I was 10. And I was like, doing the math, I was like, oh, you can be in here, that makes sense. And I knew at that point it was time. And I think the other thing that stuck out to me was when you have a twin brother, you have a special bond and connection. So the year I was still playing, he was retired, and we're in a bunch of group chats together. But I would FaceTime him or text him on the side and say, like, man, how are you really doing? Just trying to, have well-being and mental health, checking on him. And, one time he FaceTimed me from London because they had the show in London that week. He was like, man, I'm having a blast. They flew me out here in first class. I'm looking at the hotel room. And I think seeing something and seeing someone that you knew you had such a strong connection with find joy outside of football gave me confidence that I could do it too. And that next year I retired.
I inspired you.
Don't admit that. We won't repeat that out this room. But it's interesting to hear you say that because, going back also to tie to what you said, so much of it is just being exposed to things that you necessarily didn't know about before. It's like lifting the veil, and behind it, there's all these other opportunities. So Chip, how do you bring those opportunities to light, right? Like there's so many things that you can do. So how do you work with players to show them, to have different tastes of everything?
The community of people that will pour into the players it's amazing if you get the right people. And fortunately, if we've done some things in our career, built a great network, and so bringing people in for a variety of different topics, whether it's venture capital, franchising, financial management. We're also for AI, we're ChatGPT, how to use ChatGPT is part of our programming. It's part of the world, and players need to know. And they've been so uniquely focused on one thing. But as I said, there's so much ahead. And it's not my job to tell these guys what their burn should be. It's not my job to say this is what you should go into. It's my job to help them figure that out. And what's remarkable is when they figure it out, the world gets really cool.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you, the theme today is unlocking the future. And so if you think about the future and for the athletes that are coming up behind you, just in one word or one idea, what do you hope that looks like?
Man, I'll get specific to me. I'm in the world of media, so I want to see more athletes not only sitting as analysts, but realizing when it comes to media, you can do any and everything you want. Some of the people that you saw doing the news or anything of that nature, just believe in yourself to attack those dreams outside of whatever your given sport is.
I think for the athlete, the modern athlete, it has to be unlimited. I would love to see guys own teams. I would love to see guys jump into new arenas and be the CEOs, the bosses. I talked to Brady one time when he was in Tampa, and he was like, man, owners listen to me more than my actual head coaches did throughout my whole playing career, high school, college, pros. And I think guys have to have an unlimited mindset of whatever they think they can do, go do it.
Yeah, I would like to see guys stop thinking about being investors. Not every professional athlete is going to make $50 million over his career and have enough money to do it, trying to be a venture capitalist, because the reality is not a lot of deals end up being that successful. And you got to find the right deals. There's far more deals out there than there is money because everybody has a good idea. And just the same amount of respect that we've had for the game to start playing as a young guy and put the work in, and then to become elite at a level. Don't try to become elite at investment and in wealth building, because there's competitors out there and there's people out there and they're far better than you at it. No one can never play football their whole life and then think they can just jump into the NFL and start trying to play against these guys, And so get you a job, get you a mentor, get an internship, do something over the summer, meet people, build a Rolodex, learn something, start from the bottom and build your way up. Focus on an industry or strategically build multiple verticals if you just can't do one thing at a time. But take your time and do it the right way and have respect for the business the same way you have respect for the game.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys. This has been an amazing panel, amazing session. Thank you.